They say family is your anchor, the one thing that keeps you grounded no matter how far you drift. But what happens when that anchor starts pulling you under? My name is Rachel Connors Patricks, and this is the story of how I learned to draw a line in the sand, not out of anger, but out of love for myself. I'm Rachel Connors, 28 years old, a senior accountant at a small firm in suburban Ohio. I built my life brick by brick, a college degree paid for with scholarships and late-night shifts, a condo I bought with years of spreadsheets and sacrifice, a credit score that gleams like polished glass. No handouts, no shortcuts. I'm the woman who shows up early, stays late, and keeps the chaos at bay. But to my family, I'm something else entirely, the cold one, the one who stopped fixing their messes. Let's rewind. I grew up in a modest split-level house, the kind with creaky floors and a backyard swing set that rusted over time. My parents, Carol and Frank, were high school sweethearts who worked hard, Dad at the auto plant, Mom as a part-time receptionist. They weren't perfect, but they loved us fiercely. My older sister, Erin, was the spark of our family, 2 years older, with a laugh that could light up a room and dreams bigger than our small town. As kids, we were thick as thieves. I'd trail after her, wide-eyed, as she spun stories about becoming a singer or an actress. She was my hero. But somewhere along the way, Erin's spark started to flicker. By her early 20s, her dreams were buried under a string of lost jobs, evicted apartments, and unpaid bills. Every failure came with a story: the boss was unfair, the roommates were toxic, the world was against her. And my parents? They believed every word. They'd pivot, rearrange, and when they couldn't fix it, they'd turn to me. "You're so lucky, Rachel," Mom would say, her voice soft but heavy. "You've got your head on straight. You can help." That phrase followed me like a shadow. Help with Erin's car payment when she missed another deadline. Help with Mom and Dad's mortgage when Dad got laid off. Help with bail when Erin's one-time mistake landed her in a holding cell. I was 21 the first time I co-signed a loan for Erin's car, my credit spotless, my heart full of hope. "This job's different," she promised, tears in her eyes. 3 weeks later, she ghosted the job and the payments. Guess whose credit took the hit? By 23, I was wiring $2,000 to save my parents' house, my savings drained overnight. No one said thank you. At Christmas, Mom gave me a mug that said "World's Best Daughter." I wanted to laugh. At 25, Erin's DUI came with a lawyer's bill I paid to protect the family's reputation. When I refused to cover her second DUI a year later, Mom called me cold. "You've never understood what it's like to worry for someone you love," she said. "Erin's life is harder than yours." That was the moment I knew. Not suspected, knew. They didn't see me. They saw a function, a safety net, a wallet that smiled. My value wasn't in being loved. It was in being useful. Sunday dinners at my parents' house had a rhythm: Mom's casserole, Dad's old rock playlist, and an undercurrent of tension dressed up as politeness. That night, something felt off. Mom greeted me at the door with a smile too wide, her perfume sharp. "You look so thin, sweetheart. Are you eating?" Dad barely looked up from his beer, muttering, "Hey, kiddo." Erin sat at the table, scrolling her phone, avoiding my eyes like a kid caught sneaking cookies. We made it through the salad, Mom chattering about the weather like it deserved a Nobel Prize. Dad kept refilling his glass. Erin picked at her food like it might fight back. Then Mom set down her fork, folded her hands, and hit me with that practiced smile she saved for requests wrapped in guilt. "Rachel," she began, too softly, "we've been talking. Erin's had a rough time lately, and, well, she's going to be moving in with you for a little while." Just like that. No question, no discussion. She said it like she was offering me pie. I looked at Erin, she glanced up, then away. Dad cleared his throat, bracing for a fight. The room held its breath, waiting for me to push back, to give them something to call selfish. Instead, I smiled. "Of course," I said, my voice light as air. "If it helps Erin get back on her feet, I don't see why not." The silence was sharp. Mom blinked, caught off guard. Dad exhaled like he'd dodged a punch. Erin leaned back, a smug curl to her lips. They thought I'd caved. They didn't notice how still I went, how quiet. They didn't know I hadn't lived in that condo for weeks. And I had no intention of letting Erin, or any of them, move into a place that no longer existed. I didn't wake up one day and decide to deceive my family. It was years in the making, years of quiet disappointments, of favors that felt like debts, of sacrifices no one remembered but me. At 21, co-signing Erin's car loan felt like love. At 23, saving my parents' house felt like duty. At 25, paying for Erin's lawyer felt like survival. But each time, the weight grew heavier, and the gratitude never came. I started noticing patterns. Mom's tears when she needed money. Dad's silence when he couldn't face the truth. Erin's promises that crumbled like sandcastles. I'd lie awake at night, my condo silent, staring at the ceiling. This place, my place, paid for with overtime and clearance sales, wasn't mine. Not really. When they needed something, it was ours. My time, my money, my patience, they all belonged to the family. One night, I sat alone in my living room, a glass of wine untouched on the table. I stared at the front door and realized I didn't feel safe behind it. Not because of burglars or storms, but because of them. My family. They could walk in any moment, not with keys, but with expectations. And I'd open the door, like always. That's when I called a realtor. Selling the condo wasn't impulsive. It was surgical. I met the realtor on a Tuesday, toured the market on a Thursday, signed the papers by Friday. I packed my life into boxes, each one lighter than the last. I didn't tell my family, not out of cruelty, not out of revenge, but out of preservation. I moved into a small rental across town, a one-bedroom with a balcony and no history. No one asked where I lived, so I didn't offer. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. The new place wasn't fancy, no granite counters, no walk-in closet, but it was mine. I hung a single piece of art on the wall, a print of a woman standing alone on a cliff, facing the sea. It wasn't about loneliness. It was about strength. The text started Monday. We'll bring Erin's mattress Saturday morning. Frank's loading boxes Friday night. She's excited to have her own space. I didn't reply. They were talking to a version of me that didn't exist anymore, a Rachel who'd open the door, rearrange her life, and absorb the weight without a sound. By Thursday, Mom's texts grew frantic. Let me know if you need the place cleaned before Erin moves in. She's bringing her own dishes. I laughed over my coffee. Erin hadn't washed a dish in years. Saturday morning, I left early. I grabbed coffee at a diner, drove across town to nowhere special, wandered a farmer's market with no intention of buying. My phone buzzed, 3 missed calls, then a 4th. I let it ring. Rachel. Mom's voice, not soft now, but brittle with panic. What's going on? There's some man here. He says he lives in the condo. Says you don't live here anymore. I let the silence stretch. I wanted her to feel it, the unfamiliar, the uncertainty. You didn't tell us, she snapped. You never said a word. No, I said evenly. I didn't. There was scrambling on the other end, bags rustling, Dad's voice low and sharp, Erin muttering something I couldn't catch. Rachel, Mom hissed. What is this? I sold the condo, I said simply. Weeks ago. I moved out. I didn't think it mattered. No one asked where I lived. A pause, then Dad's voice cut through. You lied to us. You said she could move in. I said, if it helps Erin, I don't see why not. I didn't say where. Another pause. Erin's voice, small and lost, so what? We're just supposed to figure it out now. For a second, I almost answered. But I didn't. Because I was done making space for people who refused to change. I knew they'd come. Even as I sipped coffee that morning, even as their voicemails piled up, I knew Mom wouldn't let it go. She'd dig, call someone, show up to prove I was still reachable, still obligated. By sunset, the knock came, 3 quick hits, barely polite. I looked through the peephole, Mom, Dad, Aaron, and a car trunk stuffed with boxes. I opened the door halfway. "You found me," I said flatly. Mom looked flushed, her lipstick faded. "We tried calling," she said, voice tight. "We didn't think you'd actually." "It's my apartment," I said. "But you said she could move in," Dad snapped, his voice rising. "Now we're standing here with her things, and you're acting like we're strangers." "I never said she could move in here," I said. "That was the old place. Which, if you recall, I don't live in anymore." Aaron stepped forward, arms crossed, cheeks red with fury. "This is petty, Rachel. You act like you're above everyone, but this? This is cruel." I tilted my head. "You packed up your life and drove across town to move into an apartment you didn't confirm still existed. That's not cruelty. That's entitlement." "You're my sister," Aaron said, her voice cracking. "Yes," I said. "And you've spent years confusing that with free housing." Dad stepped between us, his voice edged with warning. "Enough, Rachel. We're not leaving. You owe this to your sister." There it was, the word they never said aloud. Oh. As if every dollar I'd paid, every hour I'd worked, every problem I'd solved was part of a contract I never signed. I stepped back, picked up my phone. "What are you doing?" Mom asked, eyes narrowing. I didn't answer. I dialed 3 rings, then, 911, "What's your emergency?" My voice stayed calm. "I have family members outside my apartment who are refusing to leave. They're not on the lease. They weren't invited. I'd like to report trespassing." Aaron's mouth fell open. Dad swore. Mom looked like I'd slapped her. "Rachel," she whispered, "you're calling the police on your own family?" "I asked you to leave," I said. "You didn't." Aaron's voice shook with rage. "This will ruin everything. Do you know what people will say?" "Yes," I said. "They'll say I finally stopped opening my door." The patrol car arrived 10 minutes later. The officer, a woman with a calm presence, stepped out. "Evening," she said. "We received a call about trespassing." "That's me," I said. She looked at my family, at the car with bags still in the trunk. "Ma'am, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "This is our daughter," Dad said. "This is a family matter." "This is her residence," the officer replied. "Which you're not allowed to occupy without permission." Aaron looked like she might cry or scream. "You're going to regret this, Rachel." "No," I said. "I've regretted almost everything up until this point. This is the first thing I'm sure of." They left, bags and all, under the officer's gaze. But the fallout was just beginning. The next morning, my phone was a war zone, 12 missed calls, 5 from Mom, 2 from Dad, the rest from cousins and family friends I hadn't seen in years. Texts flooded in, "Why would you do this to your sister? Your mom's devastated. Aaron sleeping in her car. Is that what you wanted?" Then I saw it, a public Facebook post from Mom, 3 paragraphs dripping with heartbreak emojis and a photo of Aaron as a toddler, all pigtails and innocence. We raised both our daughters to care for each other. But one has forgotten what that means. We're heartbroken that Rachel, so successful, so fortunate, would turn her back in our time of need. Aaron didn't deserve this. None of us did. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments from people I barely knew, calling me selfish, cold, ungrateful. It wasn't new, just louder. I stared at the screen, my coffee gone cold. Then, for the first time, I fought back, not with anger, but with truth. I posted a thread, screenshots of the $2,000 mortgage transfer, my name on Aaron's car loan followed by the collections notice, the lawyer's invoice from her DUI, a timeline of every one-time favor since I was 21. I included a message Erin sent 2 years ago, calling me a boring robot for not letting her crash at my place. I ended with one line: I didn't abandon my family. I just stopped volunteering for emotional debt. I turned off my phone, not because I was afraid, but because I didn't need applause. I needed quiet. The days that followed weren't easy. Old friends texted, urging me to make peace. A coworker asked if I was okay, her voice laced with pity. My aunt sent a long email about family loyalty, as if I'd betrayed a sacred vow. I felt the weight of their judgment, the isolation of being the villain in their story. But I wasn't alone, not entirely. My friend Jess, a paralegal with a no-nonsense streak, invited me over for wine and takeout. You did what most people dream of, she said, raising her glass. You chose yourself. That's not cold. That's courage. Her words stayed with me. I started seeing a therapist, too, a quiet woman named Dr. Patel who helped me unpack the guilt I'd carried for years. You were parentified, she said. You were raised to be the adult in a family that needed one. That's not your fault, but it's also not your job anymore. Slowly, I started building a life that felt like mine. I joined a book club, where I met people who valued my thoughts, not my bank account. I took a pottery class, my hands messy with clay, my mind free. I even started volunteering at a community center, helping young women build resumes and confidence. It wasn't about fixing anyone, it was about showing them they could fix themselves. One evening, I got a letter from Dad. Not a text, not a call, a handwritten note, the kind he hadn't written since I was a kid. I'm sorry we leaned on you so hard, it said. I didn't see how much it cost you. I hope one day we can talk. I didn't reply, not yet. But I kept the letter. It felt like a crack in the wall, a chance for something new, not obligation, but understanding. Standing on my balcony now, the city humming below, I think about what I've learned. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out, it's about letting yourself in. It's about recognizing that love doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It's about knowing your worth isn't tied to what you can give. If you're out there, carrying the weight of someone else's chaos, I want you to hear this: you are not a function. You are not a debt. You are allowed to say no, to walk away, to choose yourself. It won't be easy. People will call you selfish, cold, cruel. But the ones who love you, truly love you, will stay, even when you draw the line. So, what's your story? Have you ever had to set a boundary that broke your heart but saved your soul? Maybe it's with a parent, a sibling, a friend. Maybe you're still figuring out how to start. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment, share your truth. Because when we share our stories, we remind each other we're not alone. And if you're ready to take that first step, try this: write down one thing you've been saying yes to that feels like a no in your gut. Then ask yourself, what would happen if I chose me instead? It's not the end of the story. It's the beginning. I didn't come here to be loved. I came here to be whole. And for the first time, I am.